What's going on, everybody? Good morning. A little early. That's all right. We don't mind going early every once in a while. Going live a little early. I'm not gonna lie to you. I haven't been awake for very long. I'm just kidding. Been up getting ready for what's left for this week. With me and I got some plans. I'm gonna hang out with the kiddos tomorrow, so there won't be a live show tomorrow. So yeah, this will be it for the week. And then obviously if we have anything to react to over the weekend, which is, I don't know, maybe. And then next week, obviously we'll have a couple more live shows. So I'm going to tell you guys really quick. I've told you for a little while about this edited video that I'm trying to get done. I pushed it back to probably next week simply because of this live show, because we're probably going to talk about a lot of the stuff that video that I've already kind of got lined up that might or might not be in that video. So I decided let's push that edited video to probably next week. It's not going to be a long video. You guys know when I make edited content, it's normally under 10 minutes, right? But I want to get a few of those out this summer. All right, first off, before we get going here, we do have Steven Hamner from, you know him as QB Spotlight. He's my boy Steven. We're going to have him on here in just a second, but before we get going, also, hey, you guys, if you have any questions for Steven, please fire away in the live chat. But a shout out to Direct Service Overhead, the garage door company. Same-day services, quality parts, and affordable outcomes. Better than best results. Free estimates. They've got you covered. 501-244-3667. And they operate out of Central Arkansas and in Northwest Arkansas. Also, Insurance Max, business, personal, life and health, retirement. We shop the best rates for you. Sign up or call for a free quote. You get a shot at winning a free copy of EA College Football 2.5. You get your name thrown into a hat. How about that? I got tagged on some power rankings that came out. So John just sent those to me in Discord. I might look at those here in just a minute. All right. You guys know him. He's a friend of the show. One and only Mr. Steven Hamner. How's it going, man?
My guy. What's up, dude? It's been a minute.
It has been. We haven't Marco Polo'd, or we've texted a little bit, but we haven't really stayed in our normal communique.
It's June. It's June. You know, everyone's we don't take college football breaks, but we take maybe dips, if that's fair to say.
It's brutal, and they call it talking season. Yo. And I'm like, what is there to really talk about? Everyone's we're just ready to get going. Hey, I'm going to ask you. We already kind of brought it up a second ago.
Yeah.
Did you play NCAA football back in the day?
Man, like it was my favorite and only video game I probably ever played up until like high school, and I just got out of video games. So I wasn't like a big gamer, but that was the one I played, religiously until I was of a certain age. So
any plans at all? I know you're a booked, busy guy, but any plans on picking it up?
Probably not. Like I don't even own a video game controller or thing. Like if. Probably not. I know it's probably not. I'm probably like the outcast in like the college football world saying that, but yeah, probably not. But it's cool.
You're not though. You're not. Here's what's crazy. I ran a poll, just to give you guys, and you may not know this, Steven, but when I first started doing YouTube, my very first channel name was Tyzilla83, and it was supposed to be Razorback SEC Sports, and then combine that with like game. Video game stuff. And I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. And I was talking to another content creator friend of mine who has a big YouTube channel. It goes by the name Big Fry. He and I used to do a podcast together called the Digital Fire Podcast years ago. And he was like, man, you got to choose one or the other. I don't know if you can do sports and, Razorback sports or SEC sports and gaming on the same channel. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. So I ended up going this route. But, yeah. So I'm curious, but so I did this. I did a poll on my last live show, and I'm not kidding you. I think it was split down the middle of people who have no plans on picking this game up, which is wild. Wow. For my crowd, who I think are about my age or a little younger, for them to be like, nah.
Some diehards. Yeah. Yeah. You're going to get it, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
you're too. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I already pre-ordered the $100.
Love it. Love it. I do love that.
Well, it's cool because you can break down, like, you learn a little bit about the game of football,
Yeah.
just a little bit. Those
Yeah,
playbooks
yeah.
are genuine. Those are genuine playbooks.
Yeah.
And
No, it's fair. Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, you can attest to that. You're someone who played, you played quarterback in high school and you played beyond
Yep.
high school. So, all right. Well, again, everybody, make sure you like, share, subscribe. This is, of course, Stephen Hamner, friend of the show, Mr. QB Spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
So once this thing started, I know we've touched on this before to some degree, but since since we're kind of talking about what Arkansas was and what they are moving into 2024, in your mind, your former quarterback played ball at an elevated level beyond high school, and you're someone who analyzes college football with a speciality on quarterbacks and offenses. And again, we've touched on this before, but we need a refresher. We need an update.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it.
What do you believe happened to the Arkansas offense in 2023?
Oh,
Yeah.
it just got it got super boring. And a lot of times, like, boring can be either really good or really bad. If you get boring, but you have Michigan's offense and you are just like running 5 yards, 10 yards, 4 yards, and you bust it, boring is good. If you were boring was for Arkansas's offense last year, then boring is bad. Boring and predictable, I think, are probably the two words that describe Arkansas's offense last year. And while I don't think anyone thought like Enos's hire was going to like light the world on fire, I don't think people saw the big drop off coming. I didn't, especially with KJ Jefferson. That was like the biggest surprise for me. But when you put a quarterback or players in a environment that they're not familiar with and that maybe they're not comfortable with, it tends to show on the field. And that's exactly what we saw, right? So like if you or me in our work jobs were placed in a different environment, say we're used to working from like 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. Then the next day they tell us, hey, we're working from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. We're probably going to be a little bit off because we're not comfortable in that environment. So I think, long story short, without like diving too much into the X's and O's, I think it was a bunch of players not comfortable in the environment that was made for them. And that led to productivity dropping off and just a very boring and predictable offense.
So you think there might have been a little bit of hangover from the Kendall Briles, Veer and Shoot to this offense? Maybe some of those guys, KJ included, maybe Rocket Sanders, maybe there's a little bit of hangover. Maybe they never really.
Yeah, because I mean, they're like, the reason that they had success is, one, they're talented players, but two, they were an offense they were comfortable in, and their offense that they had success in. So now they're trying to change so many different things, and you know how it is. Like we hear stuff from the locker room, we hear like players talk, insiders talk, but like it's kind of, once like a small toxic culture kind of gets in somewhere, it just like spreads around, right? So if one player is not happy, if one player's not having success, and they talk, and it's just like, it becomes the expectation not to have success, if that makes sense. And it was just, the one anomaly was the Florida game. Like, I guess that was after Enos was let go, right? But like, I was like, oh wow, this is like, there were glimpses of like the old KJ or the old offense, but that was probably the only real example.
Well, since we're already kind of touched on KJ a little bit. He certainly had a degree of blame in what happened in 2023. But the thing I keep saying, something people say, and this goes all the way back to 2023. This wasn't something that was said in 2021. This wasn't something said in 2022. However, those were different offenses. I get it. But the thing that I keep hearing people say, he doesn't know how to make reads. Okay. Was that something you noticed from a year ago when watching Arkansas play? If not, what stood out to you?
I think that's definitely fair. And we heard people say that some in 2021, 2022 was, it's a one read offense, but there are countless of times, I even put out a video where it's like a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, and there's no RPO. It's going to get the defense out of position where KJ is dropping back, going through multiple reads. Now, here's maybe what I think is the difference maker is, in 2021, you had one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the SEC. And so that was taking coverage away, maybe going to him, opening up other receivers, or that guy was just getting open. And when you have that type of guy with a yard or two of separation. That's an easy throw for a quarterback. 2022, you didn't have Burks, but you had Hazelwood. You had the guy from Toledo who dropped a bunch of balls, but he was getting open. You had guys at least like getting open, spreading the field. Then last year, whether it's receivers' fault, whether it's the offense's fault, or the offensive play caller's fault, receivers weren't really separating either. So I think there's blame on KJ 100%, but there's blame on the OC and there's blame on just receivers not separating. I think there's this evenly blame distribution to go around completely. But definitely in 2023, you definitely saw a regression from KJ, which I didn't see coming.
Armstrong was the guy last year who had some moments, and he certainly stood out to me and some others. I had Mason Choate from hogbeat.com on here last week, and we dove into the receivers a little bit and talked about I talked about how much Broden actually surprised me last year. Tyrone Broden, another transfer quarterback or receiver, excuse me. Andrew Armstrong, 56 catches, 764 yards. That's 14 yards per completion or close to it, with 5 receiving touchdowns. He was certainly the guy that stood out. The guy that didn't stand out that I thought would, and that was based on everything we'd seen through camps, that's based on everything we saw week to week in practice, not on the field, was Isaac TeSlaa. And I remember you and I talking about him. Like, his footage is exciting, making all these one-handed grabs. He looked like he had this Treylon Burks type catch radius. Maybe not the kind of speed, but, still could catch anything. And it never really translated onto the field. 34 catches, 351 yards, and just 2 receiving touchdowns. How important is it going to be for them this year to establish someone at wide receiver in this Bobby Petrino offense?
Yeah, I think it's obviously important, but I think like in 2022, it was more of like receivers by committee, if people even use that term, but you had like reliable guys. So obviously you want a number one guy, but even if you don't have that number one guy, having multiple reliable guys, I think can be just as beneficial in a Petrino style offense, because he's going to set up open receivers. But at the same time, and doing that, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the first few games, like receivers are getting targeted somewhat evenly, then someone tends to maybe separate themselves, and someone tends to start getting more of the targets. Like one of Petrino's quotes that he says about his offense is like, just get the playmakers the ball. Like whenever he makes his plays, whenever he set up his offense, it's to get the playmakers the ball. So I think if someone can establish that in the first few games of the season, we can see the rock go to him more and more and more.
Looking ahead at 2024, and we're kind of staying on the receivers a little bit. I'm trying to read my note here. Arkansas wide receivers last year struggled to make a dent in the passing game. Pittman and Petrino's a pro. Okay, yeah. All right, I remember now. I wrote this out like a week ago. When I knew I was going to bring you on, or when I first reached out to you, and I forgot that I noted this. So staying on the receivers, we know they struggled to make a dent. Pittman and Petrino's approach heading into the 2024 seemed to be more about keeping all those guys from the 2023 season. Your thoughts on keeping everyone from a season ago at wide receiver for the most part? We know they added some pieces, but they've got basically the same unit. Is that something, maybe there's something that stood out to you on video? Or
yeah, I probably don't have the best answer with that, just admittedly not being being entrenched with the wide receiver room at Arkansas. But what I think and what is potentially going on is in Enos's offense, receivers are having to get open themselves. You probably need to run more polished routes to get open. You need to be a better route runner to get open. Whereas Petrino's offense, and again, this is really broadly speaking, there's of course carryovers with each offense, but Petrino's offense, you don't have to be as polished as a receiver, because he's going to set you up, he's going to get you open, he's going to have better designs offensively to open up receivers. So you're not going to have to be really crisp on that third step slant to get in, because Petrino is making the offensive scheme where that DB is concerned about something else. So he may be look in the backfield, or if that third step isn't crisp, he can still get open. So I think the differences in the offense maybe makes Petrino say, hey, we don't need to get better receivers, or maybe they tried to get better receivers and they couldn't, right? But But the differences in offense, I think, allows receivers to not have to be as polished as a route runner. Whereas Enos, with maybe more NFL tendencies, you need to have a really good route runner at receiver to get open. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. And one of the things, Petrino was always given credit for, or at least I think it feels like he did at the time, was how he could bring these kids on from like, there were 3 stars in high school and turn them into really good route runners and guys that could beat you out the first step. And maybe they weren't the most explosive, although Joe Adams and Jarius Wright were pretty explosive, especially on those crossing routes. He did a really good job of developing guys into coming into those roles as juniors and seniors as they got prepared for the NFL. And another guy that stood out through his time here and I thought would have a better NFL career was Kobe Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so looking at 2024, the recruiting, if you're looking for immediate help at wide receiver for Hog fans watching this, and I'm trying to remember, it seems like, because I've already moved on to this next cycle, you know how your brain just switches to the next. I know they brought in Kafri Brown pretty late out of South Florida. And I thought there was one other. Yeah, Jordan Anthony, who was a track guy who transferred here from A&M. Did get a little bit of action in spring camp, by the way. Never really blew up, but there's always that you're transferring from one school to another, even though he played under Petrino last year, it's still kind of, he's got to fight his way to the top.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if he can make any kind of any headway onto the field. I think he will. I think he will see a little bit of time. Okay, now we not only have Boise State videos that anybody can watch and any highlights, but now have a red-white scrimmage that we've all been able to watch to some degree, at least the highlights or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your going into fall camp analysis or preview of what you think of Talon Green and what he could bring to the Petrino offense in 2024.
Yeah, when I think of Talon Green, and he was someone I followed closely, just doing a lot of group of 5 quarterback content, and if he's a very flash player. You see flashes, you're like, damn, okay, like he can really do something. And then you see other plays, you're like, damn, okay, maybe he can't do something. So I think with Petrino, with Green, it all comes down to kind of the flash plays just become consistent. When I say flash, I don't necessarily mean you have to have a 90-yard touchdown run or 70-yard bomb per se, right? Just like flashing the talent, the potential, can that just be consistent? And alluding to the scrimmage or the spring game, I know good stats, good numbers, did some good things, did some things well. But to be honest, if he went like 8 of 24 and had 100 yards and 2 picks, it still wouldn't change my thinking on Green. I just don't put a ton of value and stock into spring games. Of course, you would rather do better than bad in a spring game, but we've both seen quarterbacks who have gone 15 of 15 for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in spring games, and they get benched in week 3. And then we've seen guys be atrocious in spring games, and they come and take over during the season. So, yeah, you want to play better in the spring game than not, but I don't put a ton of value into that. But I think if I had to wrap up Green in one just phrase and sense, like you got to find a way to turn these flash plays into consistency. I think that's the only way Arkansas's offense can compete at the level that they need to compete to have the season they want to have.
Something that's interesting about Green and Petrino, first off, when Petrino was at Arkansas, his short time, it was, his time was cut a little short for unknown reasons that no Hog fan knows or understands at all, right? Nothing to do with the bike or a blonde. All right, those jokes are old. I get it. But one thing that we never saw in his time here before, even though he'd done it elsewhere at Louisville later on, he never had a dual threat quarterback when he was here. He had Ryan Mallet, who, rest in peace, he was a statue. He was unbelievable arm talent. I mean, could drop a dime, 40, 50 yards downfield. Just beautiful long ball throws. I can remember watching him. I think it was spring camp, the first time I actually got to watch, not spring camp, but the red-white scrimmage, excuse me, and got to watch him just spread that offense out and dropping dimes left and right. It was unreal. And that actually did translate. However, I remember watching guys like, because I've been to, I don't think I've missed but one, maybe two red-white scrimmages that have been open to the public in 20 years. Because I lived down the road in Fayetteville from the stadium for forever and always had easy access to the stadium. But I remember watching guys like Brandon Allen, Austin Allen look horrible in spring red-white scrimmages. Tyler Wilson looking horrible. And then we saw like what happened when Tyler Wilson was called up against Auburn when Ryan Mallet was injured. And I remember him checking in and going, we're going to get killed. He's going to get picked left and right. This is going to be awful. No, what happened was the opposite. He made it into a game. It was already a game by the time he came in, but Auburn was scoring with ease. And I thought for sure this was going to be a complete blowout. And Tyler Wilson was incredible. Yep. And then we saw him do it as the starter the following year. So to speak to what talking about the spring game, it is hard to take a whole lot from any spring game. I know we've talked about it. You and I've talked about it a little bit, and I know on my live shows, which I've talked about it a lot. You can only take a grain of salt from a red-white scrimmage, or even what you get from spring camp is okay. Who's in rotation for the ones and twos? What newcomers is making his way up from the threes to the twos? That's what you can get from spring camp. Right. But a red-white scrimmage, and especially because what you see when you watch those highlights and people, it's kind of funny watching people just lose their minds over Green, like, oh my God, he's going to be elite. Mm-hmm. We also have to remember he was doing this against the twos.
Right.
He's seen them 100 times, and these are the twos, for crying out loud. Let's just pump the brakes, but there is plenty to be excited about. There was enough for me to come out of spring camp and go, all right, maybe they have something with an athlete here at quarterback.
Yeah. I agree. I think there's plenty to get excited about, but like I would get more excited about seeing what he did at Boise State in like real games compared to the scrimmage,
Yeah, and by the way, he tore it up in the championship game. He was the player. He was the MVP of that game. There are certainly, what do you want to call it? Like not skeptic optimism. Is that maybe?
Yeah, like cautiously optimistic. Maybe.
Optimistic. Yeah, that's the word. It just slips my mind when I'm doing these. But yeah. I mean, sure, that's where I'm at with it. I'm cautiously optimistic.
I think that's totally fair. And to your point about Petrino, like we've seen him adapt over time with Lamar Jackson. I think his name was Jason Shelley at Missouri State, where Petrino was at before, and Shelley wasn't a very good quarterback. He was at Utah State, just up and down. I know it's an FCS level, but Shelley had like set several records at Missouri State. So turnaround is possible, or getting the most out of someone is possible in Petrino's offense.
Have you, and I'm sorry to probably ask you this, and you may not be super aware of it yet, or you haven't heard of it because I know you've been plenty busy this offseason. Yeah. Arkansas added a former Major League Baseball player to their receiver room.
I did hear about that. I did. Yep.
Monty Harrison.
Yep.
28-year-old walk-on wide receiver.
Yep. I did hear about. So, and when I was in college, we had a former major, or I don't even think the guy made it to the big leagues, maybe AAA, but he was drafted, and then he came to where I was at in college as like a 27-year-old. Was this huge jack grown man? And I was like 18. I was like, holy hell. But yeah, I mean, hopefully it works out, right? I don't know.
We got to hurry up and get practice over with, guys. I got to go pick up my kids from school.
Right, exactly.
It's going to be Monty Harrison, or he's going to be late to practice because he had to pick the kids up. I can relate because when I do go to practice during the season, I have to pick my kids up from school, get them home, and then haul ass to Fayetteville, which is from where I'm at in Springdale. That's about a 35-minute drive, including traffic. So I get it, Monty. If you're having to go through that, man, I feel your pain. Yeah, Monty Harrison.
I can carpool together or something, Ty.
I'm gonna hit him up like, bro, you need a lift. Our kids probably go to the same school. What's up, Pigpen? Philip White, how you guys doing? Welcome. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. Welcome to anyone who's watching this. Maybe you weren't here during the live, but feel free to go support my guy Stephen Hamner, QB Spotlight. You can hit him. You can follow him on Twitter and You're kind of everywhere, right? Do you have an Instagram? I don't know because I'm not on IG.
I'm not on this. Yeah, no. I'm just on like Twitter and YouTube, and that's it. Probably should be, but
and I get shamed all the time. Like, why aren't you more out? You made a Facebook tie and you're not doing anything with it.
Yeah,
I just don't. So, really quick, last thing. Speaking of the red-white scrimmage, fully aware you can only take so much from any scrimmage. Was there anything that maybe Hog fans should give Hog fans a dash of hope from an offensive perspective? Is there anything, or is it simply just that Petrino's here and Talon Green? Like, what's the thing? It doesn't even have to just be from the red-white scrimmage, but what would be the most optimistic take you could have about this offense moving forward based on what we know so far?
Yeah, I think there's two things if we just want to be super optimistic about. Number one, the ability to push the ball downfield, the deep ball threat, which was not really existent at most times last year for Arkansas. So I think that's number one. Like you have more field to work with. Taylor Green can push the ball downfield, and he's not afraid to take shots either. So that's number one. Number two, I think his athletic ability and Petrino's RPO schemes, marrying that together, I think can help hide maybe some weaker areas of the team. I'm not going to pretend I'm an O-line expert, but there was definitely issues at the O-line position last year. And I saw when you have a quarterback like Green and an offense like Petrino, that can maybe mask some potential flaws or weaknesses by getting the ball out quick, or just have an athletic quarterback like Green avoid pressure. I think he was only sacked I have it somewhere like 14 times the last 2 seasons combined at Boise State. Yeah, so Green was only sacked 14 times in 2 seasons at Boise State. Now, maybe Boise State had like the best offensive line, but I'm gonna take a guess that it's because Green was pretty athletic to get away. And you don't always see that with athletic quarterbacks. Sometimes you see athletic quarterbacks get more sacks because they hold on to the ball more, like KJ Jefferson, right? So those are my two kind of optimistic takeaways. Is I think the offensive line could be improved by the simple fact you have a quarterback like Green and Petrino's offense, and you could see some more deep shot success.
Talon Green, according to PFF, he was sacked 5 times last year.
5 times last year. Wow.
No, that's based on 220 total snaps. So that's not like your normal volume, right? It's a little low because they were having that quarterback, that back between him and the other quarterback. But
that's still like eight game average, maybe.
That's crazy.
Maybe, like 8 game average. Yeah. I do have a quick game to play with Green, Ty, if you want to go down this rabbit hole real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I totally forgot about this article until I was coming on. It was you may have seen this. It came out maybe a month or two ago. It was it ranked the 16 quarterbacks in the SEC. It was 2, 4, 7. I forgot who wrote it or put it out. But they have Green at number 14 out of 16 quarterbacks. Only 2 quarterbacks behind. Have you seen this article? Are you familiar with?
I saw it. I did not. I haven't read it.
Okay, so maybe I was thinking if we run through it, we can talk about the quarterbacks ranked ahead of Green. If we would take those quarterbacks or Green, does that sound okay? I think it's fair to omit we can omit like Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, and maybe Brady Cook as like those are the for sure top 5. We can omit those guys because we probably know the answer. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go right ahead of them. They have Peyton Thorne from Auburn. Are you taking Green or Thorne?
Okay, but here's where it's complicated. Are we talking about running that offense, or are we talking about in the Petrino offense?
Great point. Let's just say relative to each offense. I'm taking Green here, by the way. I'm taking Green over Peyton Thorne.
I think I would take Green over Thorne.
Okay. Number 12 is Diego Pavia, the transfer from New Mexico State, who I love, and he's at Vanderbilt. He's at number 12 right now, again ahead of Green.
I don't know enough about him. I remember reading something on him a little while back. He had really good touchdown to interception ratio, if I remember right. It was like almost 30 touchdowns and 7 picks or something.
Great competitor, like
runs really well.
runs well. He's a smaller guy, but he upset Auburn. They won like 3 touchdowns. But I'm still probably taking Green over Diego, right? So
Yeah,
maybe, yeah, I think
I'd take
so.
Green. Yeah.
And then I'm taking Green over this next guy too, Blake Shapen, the former Baylor quarterback who transferred to Mississippi State. Shapen's at number 11 here, very inconsistent. But I'm taking Green over Shapen. Have you had a chance to watch Shapen much or know much about?
I know a little bit about Shapen.
Okay.
I know he was he was at Baylor. I know he had pretty decent completion percentage numbers. Like at one point, he was 68%. I think it dropped to 62%. Yeah, I would take Green over Shapen. I'm a little bit familiar with him. Yeah, just doing my breakdown on Mississippi State for Arkansas. Yeah, I would take Green over Shapen.
So right now we have Green at 11. I think we agree with that. So now this is where it becomes a little messy. Out of any of these guys that coming up next, Jackson Arnold, OU, Connor Wigman at A&M, Graham Mertz at Florida, Nussmeier, LSU, then Nico Malieva at Tennessee. So several new starters and several guys who played last year. Some. Are you taking Green over any of those guys?
Well, okay. Like Wigman, to me, Connor Wigman might be the biggest surprise in the SEC this year.
Yeah. I
know last year before he got hurt, he was killing it in Petrino's offense.
Yeah.
I mean, he was killing it. 64% or something. Now he did throw the ball a little bit more than what you would think. Got hurt, but he only threw, if I remember right, 2 picks.
Yeah,
16 touchdowns. I think he had maybe 18 total touchdowns, 2 picks.
Yeah, he's
very accurate quarterback.
I like Wigman. I'm with you. Yeah. I don't think I'm taking Green over any of these guys either, because there's so much upside for some of these quarterbacks, But so we got Green at number 11, essentially, I think, together. So,
and who knows, right? I mean, it is all relative, right? And they're all in their own prospective offenses, and some of these guys are going to be running. One of them you mentioned is going to be in the air raid, and
right.
I think with Mike Elko with his offense, I don't know how many shots downfield we're going to see. Like, I don't know what the A&M offense is really going to look like. If it's going to look like Duke, what Mike Elko did at Duke, then I don't know that his numbers are going to look unbelievable. But his arm talent, I really think he's an NFL quarterback.
He's a stud. They got their OC is Colin Klein from Kansas State. Remember that? Yeah. And I think he's just bright. I think it could be a perfect combination. I know Arkansas isn't A&M fans, and I'm not an A&M fan either. A&M is going through the ringer right now if you pay attention to college baseball. But yeah, I think Wigman could be great. But yeah, like you said at the beginning of the show, this is just talking season. So I figured we would just throw this little game out, and
that's fun. Yeah, no, I had given this some thought a little while back. Just like, I wonder if this guy would do better in Petrino's offense. And Wigman did come to mind because he did play Petrino's offense at A&M. Like, how well would he do here with these weapons versus what he had at A&M? And we know on paper, A&M vastly more talented than Arkansas.
Right.
But would that be an upgrade here versus Green? And that's a tough question, but I think I would take Wigman over Green just because I'm so high on him.
Right. Yeah. Huge. People a lot smarter than me, and when it comes to like talking football and breaking down football and knowing football, are really high on Wigman. So that's enough for me to be pretty high as well.
Yeah, for sure. Great morning show. What's up, Hog Wild? How you doing, man? No Diego, no. This is Philip White.
We agree, Philip. Yeah. I like Diego. He I don't know if you know the story, Ty. He because New Mexico was their rival, he took a piss on their practice field the day before they played or something like that. And like a video got out and something. It was awesome.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, he's a competitor. I love it. He's just like a
fighter. I do love that. I love a little shit talk.
Yeah.
I like guys. Listen, man, we live in a time, and I don't mean to be like that old man, like shaking his fist at the sky. Like, we live in a time when kids are just happy to get a check and that's it. I want to see fierce competitiveness, man. Like people that are, they want to beat the other guy across
Yep.
from them. They want to win. They want to dominate, and they're going to be cocky about it. And they're going to wear their emotions on their sleeves. I love that. It shows that they care.
Yeah.
It's stunts like that. I don't know. I'm not saying I condone pissing on someone's field, but
just don't get caught. Like don't video it if you're gonna do it. And then don't leak it.
That takes some balls right there. All right. Well, everyone, you know him, Stephen Hamner, friend of the show, QB Spotlight. I know you got some stuff going on this morning. I appreciate you taking a little time out of your busy schedule to come by and talk to us, man.
Sure. Appreciate you, Ty. We'll talk soon, man.
Oh, we will. Take it easy, Stephen.
You too. Peace.
Stephen Hamner, one and only, man. He's been on this show. I think he is the most. I think he's been on here more. Yeah, he's been on here more than anybody, and I love having him on. Love getting his perspective. Finally, a morning show. We need more of these. I know. I see, but here's the thing. I start doing morning shows, and then the analytics dive. People stop watching them. And then I do the evening shows. They do pretty well, and then they take a dive. I do, like, if it's up to me, I want to do morning shows. Absolutely. I do like doing morning shows. I don't mind them at all. But I try to follow the analytics. Sometimes you got to just say the hell with the analytics. Just do whatever you want to do. Again, shout out to Patreon supporters. Hey, the month is coming to an end. You guys want a shot at winning some incredible cards, man. This is an incredible month for Patreon, for legendary status members. If you are and we've actually added some, but if you're a legendary status member, you're going to get a shot at this Alex Collins, Hunter Henry dual autographed card. And then also another legendary status member is going to have a shot at winning this autographed Hunter Henry. It says player worn. It doesn't say, it says the enclosed player worn material and autograph are guaranteed, blah, blah, blah. So that's player worn right there. That is so cool. But if you're a Patreon supporter, you're going to get a shot at winning. If you're legendary status, one of those two cards. We got Andrew Benintendi. He's on deck. And then we spoke of him earlier. May he rest in peace. Ryan Mallet. Speaking of rest in peace, Alex Collins as well. That'll be for the $4 folks right there. That foil Ryan Mallet card. So there you go. That's all. If you're a Patreon supporter, you'll have a shot at winning one of these cards. It's real easy to sign up. Link is provided for you down below. Sad side note, today is is it really? Oh man. Has it already been a year? Oh my gosh. Did not that left my mind. Man. That's can't believe it's been a year, man. As far as watching quarterbacks live, I've seen plenty. Even going back to when I was knee high to a grasshopper, didn't really understand the sport. Guys like Barry Lenny Jr. When I got a little bit older, of course, we had Clint Sterner, and I thought, oh my gosh, we'll never have a quarterback like this again. He had a short stint in the NFL with the Cowboys. But we had never seen anything like a Ryan Mallet. I did not know that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Brim. Ryan Mallet, I just remember reading about his arm. And back then, you had YouTube and you could kind of watch stuff, but not like today, right? You could pull anything up today. But I remember actually getting to watch him throw the ball in person. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen before in my life. I remember when he was out of high school and he picked Michigan, and there were all these crazy rumors that Houston didn't want him as a quarterback. I don't remember. That'd be a really good question for Trey Biddy if he remembers that recruiting very well. But of course he's from Northwest Arkansas, but he went to school down in Texarkana, picked Michigan over Arkansas, 5-star quarterback. And I remember reading about him and friends telling me who really keep up with recruiting at a level higher than I did at the time, saying he's got an NFL arm now. And I remember being like, nah, no way. Come on, man. He's 17 years old. And then you actually watch him throw the ball in person. And to to this day, I've never seen anything like it. Not in person. You know, I mean, that was not in a Razorback jersey, I should say. I did get to watch Kurt Warner play when I was 16 years old. Got to go to a Monday night football game. Arky 56 will tell you all about that. We had nosebleed seats all the way in the TWA dome at the very back. Our backs were touching the wall. It was great, though. Great memory. But I'd never seen anyone like Ryan Mallet, man. Well, I did not know today was his year, the year anniversary that he passed away. Rest in peace, Ryan. Man, it's still just it's still hard to believe him and Alex Collins. You know, it's you think of the names, the former Razorbacks that have passed, and they're younger than I am. You know, I'm 40. I'll be 41 next month. And these guys, their lives were really just starting to, they were just starting, you know, right? Getting done with the NFL and kind of moving on. Ryan was coaching here in Arkansas. Like, man. Yeah, rest in peace, 15. There it is. That's crazy. All right. Well, we'll end it there. And make sure you guys like, share, subscribe on your way out and all that stuff. But that's not really important. Maybe take a little time out of your day. I don't know. Watch a Ryan Mallet video. You know, maybe say a little prayer before you go to bed tonight. But I will say, I am thankful I got to watch him play in a Razorback jersey. I really am. Really am. So thankful he was a Razorback. But yeah, thoughts and prayers to his loved ones. Still just can't get over that. So, all right. I appreciate you guys. And I'll see you next week.